A few words by guest author, January 29, 2023, guest article by Saleh.
A few words about the actual fact of the absolutely excessive and extremely dangerous overpopulation and its consequences, for those who have yet to grasp it. There exists on Earth currently an unchecked, excessive, and extremely dangerous overpopulation which is growing steadily, day by day, week by week, month by month, and year by year. Around 100 million new human beings populate the Earth every year, and the actual overpopulation, January 2023, is around 9.34 billion, 9,339,174,098, according to precise Playarin's data. We have also been informed repeatedly over several decades that the relentless, unchecked, and uncontrolled growth of the human population leads inevitably to the destruction of nature, the planet itself, and all of the life forms that live on the planet, including ourselves. Today, in the year 2023, this is evident to see for any reasonable and clear-minded individual. Yet there are still those who think that overpopulation isn't a problem, or that it has been fabricated by the evil elite hell-bent on depopulating the world for their own devious and nefarious agenda. That there exists a world elite of power-hungry warmongers intent on the total control of the planet, its resources and people is indisputable, and there is plenty of evidence for this. Consider what Billy Edward Albert Meyer has said regarding this world elite and the consequences of the overpopulation. Excerpt from free booklet Blick auf die Gegenwart von 2017 and die sich daraus entwickelnde Zukunft. Available at www.figu.org. 1. The great misery and end of the overpopulation song will be that the world elite will recognize that the preservation of their might can only be ensured if the overpopulation is drastically reduced. Hereby, this reduction of human beings in the future threatens to be carried out in a criminal way by the world mighty ones. If the mass growth of the overpopulation isn't ended in the foreseeable time through a drastic worldwide birth stop and a world-encompassing birth control, this future world mighty elite will know no mercy and will carry out an extermination of humanity that couldn't be more horrific. Many possibilities present themselves probability-wise, like that diverse, traditional, death-bringing viruses will be worked on and prepared with deadly substances. However, also artificially created illnesses for the decimation of humanity will find use. Likewise, the calculations show that secretly, for the decimation of humanity, infectious, poisonous biological substances will be used, and their deadly effects will be presented as new and incurable pandemics, whereby these poisons then penetrate the entire organism through the breath and mouth as well as the skin and mucous membranes, through which an unavoidable, unstoppable mass dying occurs. Also purposefully triggered hunger and wars, poisoning of the food and drinking water will belong to the arsenal of tactics for the decimation of humanity to a governable minimum, which will happen worldwide, therefore not only in some murderous and dictatorial states. Also, a thermonuclear war for the depopulation will be considered, so that the population can be reduced in such a way that it can be governed again. Consequently, a murdering of human beings in a way never before seen could happen. These brutal-minded criminal elites truly know no mercy, and especially in the present times it is clear to recognize their unscrupulous behavior, lies, deceit, and complete disregard for human life. It is also clear that the elite utilize facts, as well as outright lies, to deceive the people and push for more centralized power, control, and inhumane policies. Overpopulation is a fact. The destruction of the earth, atmosphere, climate, geological structures, mountains, oceans, rivers, seas, forests and marshes, bogs and fens, etc., as a consequence of the immense mass of human beings and all of their necessary and unnecessary needs and wants, is a fact. that the world might ones also utilize the truth of overpopulation, climate change, and the pandemic, etc. to realize their nefarious agenda is also a fact. This has led many people on Earth to falsely believe that overpopulation, climate change, and the pandemic have been fabricated by the elite. This is quite obviously untrue. Consider this from Geisteslehrbrief NR 129, page 1582. Objective critical reason is required for truth-searching and truth-finding, whether the truth is relative or absolute. Within this objective critical reason is also contained that many paths of truth-searching and truth-finding exist and are given, through which many paths lead to finding a relative or absolute truth, whereby one path can be equal to another or one can be preferred to another. Each path is as good and useful as it is pursued. According to the flexibility and individuality, a human being can have at his or her disposal many possibilities and paths to truth-searching and truth-finding, which accordingly are of lesser or greater use. Supposition knowledge, Vermutungswissen, appears when the human being assumes to have had a cognition, which perhaps applies or also not, and which a certain truth or also not is contained, because it is only based on a supposition, respectively, an assumption. A supposition, respectively, an assumption only represents a prevailing holding to be true, presumption, respectively, acceptance of a matter that can be both correct or false. If an assumption is made in the conviction that its correctness can be confirmed through evidence, then a hypothesis is spoken of. If the assumption, however, lacks the power of conviction and cannot be confirmed through evidence, then it is termed fiction, something thought up, imagined, what can further be termed as imagination. Contrary to that stands knowledge, which results as entirety out of the real cognition and constitutes the fundamental substance for the experience and certainty wisdom. True truth represents a term which confirms and testifies the real truth as factual. A true truth is also a real, factual, indisputable, as well as impeccable, complete, certain, given, and absolute truth, which harbors in itself no doubt or uncertainty whatsoever. Therefore, when we talk about overpopulation, we must consider its factual, real existence, its true causes and consequences, and its real and factual, humane solution, which is a worldwide stoppage of births, coming from the free decision of each and every reasonable and responsible human being without compulsion from governments or religions or anyone else for that matter, only from the individual clear recognition of life as an interconnected we form, and the recognition of one's own personal self-responsibility towards oneself, the fellow life forms of every kind, the earth itself, and the future. Only an arrogant, self-centered human being would sacrifice the health and well-being of all life on earth for their own egotistical goals and insidious intentions, as this is seemingly the case for the greedy world mighty ones, degenerated in the worst form of inhumanity. So, those with eyes to see, ears to hear, and consciousness and psyche to think and feel, consider the truth and act accordingly. All interested can find much more information at www.figu.org.
Guest article by Paul Saleh.